Hi everyone, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's Middle East update. It is August 24th, and let me just make sure that's the case. Yeah. And we're going to give you an update as far as what's taken place over this previous week. So just a reminder that the PDF PowerPoint that you see behind me is available on the YouTube channel page. It's just a link, just click it and you can get all the notes without my head in the way. So, you know, we usually start with news bites, but over the last couple weeks, I've decided to start with a different slide. And it's kind of to answer the question of what's so important, why a Middle East update in the days in which we're living. And I'm just going to read from Zechariah. Zechariah 12 says, "Behold, I will make this place, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples when they lay siege against Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall happen in that day that I will make," are you ready for this? "I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples, and all who would heave it away will surely be cut in pieces, though all nations of the earth are gathered against it." Jerusalem, in the last days, in the latter days, this is the place where everybody is concerned about in this world. All eyes on Jerusalem. Well, let's take a look at our news bites. What used to be sort of whispered is now being said out loud. Are you ready? Turkey is on a fast collision course with Israel. That's the bottom line. Based on their knowledge of Israel's capabilities, they'll probably choose to wait for Russia to sort of take the lead. Again, preview of coming attractions. This is the Ezekiel war that's laid out in the scriptures. Again, it's in today's news. And then, speaking of Russia, Russia is shipping explosives and other military goods to help Iran. Again, to help Iran what? Replenish its arsenal that's been depleted and it's fighting against the US and Israel. Remember, the so-called ceasefire, which by the way is now over, is just an opportunity for jihadists to reload. I just read this yesterday. The Iranian state television is broadcasting a video that's threatening Barron Trump and referring to a $10 million reward for targeting him for his death. Hamas, again, this is now with Gaza in mind. Hamas members can remove their uniforms, they can put on suits. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad, those operatives can replace their rifles with election posters. They can talk about democracy and elections and political partnerships, but the bottom line, none of that will change who they really are. Keep that in mind. And then on a lighter note, Tucker Carlson said that Israeli schools don't use plus signs because they look like crosses. This might be the dumbest thing he's ever said. Might be. We'll wait and see. Okay, our articles this week, October. October is coming. Trump has shifted his policy, as you know, towards kind of slowly choking the regime rather than launching a kinetic attacks against Iran. Israel, by the way, has no problem with this approach. whatever works to weaken or to replace this evil regime, that should be pursued. However, if you think that the IRGC will just let this go on for too long, you're wrong. Kiss that thought goodbye. They're going to need to break free from this chokehold. And again, they want to do their best to embarrass the president so that he will suffer defeats in the midterms. But the bottom line, as the sand is sort of emptying out of the hourglass, expect something major in October. And then today, economic D-Day, that's what Trump is calling this. He says, today I'm announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country, and you might as well just say in the history of mankind, because this is like Trump, right? So he goes on to say that there's going to be tremendous economic consequences for any country that aids Iran in any way. He says oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies, it all needs to stop now. You know who you are. This, as of today, is the economic D-Day. He's called on U.S. allies to isolate and defeat the Iranian threat. And then he simply ends by saying these maniacs are on the ropes. These historic measures will cripple them and their ability to project terror worldwide. And then a common theme, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Today, economic D-Day. And then Board of Peace, Gaza situation. This is from Jonathan Kornukas, former senior fellow at the FDD, former lieutenant colonel in the IDF. He basically says this: the Board of Peace and what they're attempting to do with this demilitarization, he says it will be measured by whether the weapons are actually collected, the tunnels actually mapped and then sealed, and the verification process that will, in a sense, be held to a rigorous standard. Then he goes on to say, if that were to happen, Israel will have every reason to step back. The Gazans will have a legitimate, genuine opportunity to rebuild without the shadow of terror, that dictatorship that has dictated war for how many years now? Let's just go back to 48. So this is the bottom line. Anything less than all of these things, we're simply going to hit the rewind button, and it'll be the same deadly cycle that has already claimed way too many lives. So again, we're holding out hope for this to take place, but because of the hatred and the legacy of this hate, I have my doubts. And then did you know, elections are coming up in a lot of different places. We know about our midterms, we know what's going on in Israel, and now the Palestinian Authority is, in a sense, floating elections. And who's leading? The bottom line is that Marwan Barghouti, a prominent Palestinian political activist, who, by the way, is in prison. He has 5 life sentences with 40 years because he's directed deadly attacks during the Second Intifada. This is the guy that's leading the polls for the new president of the Palestinian Authority. Right when you thought it can't be any crazier than it is now. Yeah, And now we have Americans, in a sense, joining in the efforts to, quote, free Barghouti. No comment. I had to share this one as well before we end. You know the girl with the big glasses, the UN rapporteur Albanese? I find it fascinating that she said that the death toll in Gaza was 680,000, and it includes 70,000 terrorists, including 100,000 infants under 5. When told that there were only 341,790 children 5 and under in Gaza to begin with, Albanese says she lied deliberately because it had the effect that I wanted. Lied deliberately. Hamas lies were easily swallowed by the woke West. Hamas strategically exploited Western media, governments, institutions, the UN after October 7th to do what? To convert the Jewish deaths into Israeli guilt. All right, last up. Trump has now announced that there is a new U.S. territory. Take a good look. The Strait of Hormuz. So that is our update for this week. Once again, all eyes, Zechariah says, will be focused on Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem and know that God has all things under his control. So God bless you and shalom until next week.